Hello, I'm Gary Adams, President of the National Cotton Council, and I want to welcome you to this series of videos that the National Cotton Council has put together to address what we believe is a critical issue facing the U.S. cotton industry, and that is the prevention of contaminants in our U.S. cotton bales. Unfortunately, we are seeing an alarming increase in the incidences of contamination in our bales when they arrive at textile mills. Part of that is plastic contaminants, but it's also other contaminants. This industry has worked for decades to build a reputation as a reliable supplier of contamination-free cotton. These recent occurrences of contamination, unfortunately, are jeopardizing that reputation, and it has economic consequences throughout the supply chain. Our textile customers, when they see that contamination, face additional cost with removing it. They're also not as likely to pay the premium for U.S. cotton that we have enjoyed relative to other growths. Those economic signals are transmitted back to the gin and to the grower. Ultimately, the grower sees it in a lower price for his cotton. And we also have to remember that with the PBI system we have in place, there is traceability back to the gin and to the grower. So there is accountability throughout the system. I think that's why it has to be a concerted effort by the entire industry to address this problem. I want to thank you for taking your time to view these videos. We encourage you to use these videos with your employees so that they can understand the best management practices necessary to tackle this very important problem. The Council is making a concerted effort to educate the industry about the problems we face and about the best ways to address these issues. We have these videos. We also have other materials available on our website that is available to the industry, and that is at www.cotton.org. So we certainly want you to make use of the materials that are available on the Council's website. You're also welcome to contact the staff of the National Cotton Council if you have any questions. And again, thank you for taking time to view these videos.
This is an issue that's very important to me, and it's important to our industry.
Cotton grown in the United States has a reputation for being one of the cleanest, least contaminated fibers in the world. However, with this reputation comes great responsibility. Despite our position in the global fiber market, contamination remains a big problem, even for U.S. cotton growers.
You get a piece of plastic in there, you just don't know when it's going to come out.
Lint contamination finds its way into cotton in many forms. Plastic twine, module cover materials, plastic shopping bags, polypipe, mulch, pieces of shop rag, paper towels, and apparel are all potential contaminants.
I had a guy in a meeting one time that his picker operator said, you expect me to stop and get that bag off that kind of stuff?
During the 2017 crop, the Department of Agriculture's Agricultural Marketing Service, or AMS, had more 6162 or extraneous matter calls than ever before. Looking at the data they collected over the course of the season, it is apparent why our focus should be on preventing round module wrap contamination. Over 88% of all the plastic found was either yellow or pink. If we can reduce the contamination from round module wrap, we will see a drastic change in the volume of contamination in our cotton. When contaminated cotton reaches a textile mill, mills must stop their operations and remove the contaminants immediately. One bale can contaminate an entire laydown. A laydown is the term used for 20 to 40 bales laid out in a row at a textile mill. The feeder skims the surface of the row of bales to blend the cotton together as it moves into the mill. The downtime needed to remove contaminants can be extremely costly for mills. Often mills will demand a discount for the price they paid for the contaminated cotton. Mills can also decide to take their business to another supplier. U.S. cotton producers do not need to lose valuable customers over contamination. Contamination is 100% preventable.
Regardless of the source, where it came from, it's all contamination, and we've got to try to remove it.
We need to minimize and do everything we can to keep it from getting in the gin.
To play your part in preventing contamination, always check your field before harvest. Remove debris from your fields and keep an eye out for loose ditch liners and polypipe. You should also be aware of any residual plastic or mulch in your fields. When harvesting and a roll of wrap runs out, make sure to secure the leftover wrap on the empty roll by attaching it to the cradle on the side of the harvester. This will keep any unwanted debris from the empty rolls out of the field and out of any modules. Inspect harvest equipment daily for hydraulic leaks or grease that could come in contact with seed cotton.
We know this is a really important issue in the industry to address. We obviously, in the U.S. especially, want to help to have contamination-free cotton, and we want to do everything we can to make sure, on the harvester side anyway, that we're not adding to that and we're helping to prevent it.
During harvest, many cotton producers use onboard module builders or round module builders such as the John Deere 7760, CP690, and CS690 models. This new technology has helped improve efficiency, lower labor cost, and preserve fiber quality for cotton producers across the cotton belt. John Deere provides module staging instructions, ginning recommendations, and inspection and maintenance guides with their harvesters. John Deere also designed the Go Cotton app to complement their cotton harvesters. This app is available through Apple Store and Google Play, and it offers producers a step-by-step guide to properly clean and maintain their machine. If you ever run into more complicated problems than the guide covers, always contact your local John Deere dealership.
But when we get one even like this, we were able to haul it. If you had to try to get that cotton in the gin without getting any plastic on it, how would you do it? I mean, it's just not easy. We do have a suck pipe. Some gins don't even have a suck pipe.
Also, remember that communication between the producer and gin manager should always be a priority. If a module has an issue during harvest, inform the gin as soon as possible. This rule also applies for damaged modules. If the gin is made aware of damage on the front end, they can take the proper steps to clean up the module and prevent contamination.
I'd say if we get a good module here with it's not torn or anything, is virtually zero contamination ever. It's right here is where we have most of our problems. Or we get one that's partially torn up that we can still run on here.
John Deere taught us all, treat customers right. We had lots of classes on that, and that's how we proceed with the cotton wrap.
TAMA RMW cotton wrap is designed to complement John Deere 7760, CP690, and CS690 cotton harvesters that module cotton in a continuous process without stopping the harvester. The wrap is designed to minimize the risk of contamination. It assures reliable automatic packaging for non-stop harvesting, helps to maintain the quality of cotton in round modules which are exposed to extreme conditions, and helps eliminate waste.
This is your tacky material on the outside. This is what feeds, this lighter yellow is what feeds on the bale first. Then you have the AB joint that holds the two of them together, and then your tacky comes on, like the last third of the wrap, comes on, and this tacky actually helps keep the bale together. And then there's an adhesive, which I don't see on this portion here, but I can show you probably if we pull one of those apart. There's an adhesive that's on the tail area that is the final that keeps all that together.
Despite the benefits, cotton producers need to be aware of the issues that arise with onboard module builders and cotton wrap. One common problem involves loose edge covers on the module.
You know, the problem there is that when those edges are loose, they can get caught on things easier and you can tear off small pieces. That could cause some contamination.
Another problem that occurs is bale in bale. Both this and loose edge covers can be avoided by setting the wrap hoist even with this decal. This will lower and engage the wrap rollers, eliminating any slack or air gap. It also creates the appropriate tension on the wrap. It's important to remember the clutch runs at two different speeds. For the first 75 to 80% of the module wrap, the machine's wrapper should run about 233 RPMs. Before the patented Z-lock separates, the machine's wrapper should be running at about 100 RPMs.
Key things are going to be belt tracking. It's really gaps, belt tracking, and cleaning are the big things that are going to affect wrap performance on a machine and things that growers are looking at on a regular basis. So What this has got here, so this is R&B belt position. So the main thing we're saying here is the things we're going to look at as a grower is this, first of all, the gap between these baler belts on this and the outside walls of the baler.
Another common problem involves the position of the round module builder, or RMB, belt. There should be about a 3/4 inch gap between the baler side sheet and the belt to avoid any tears in the wrap.
So if all the belts are off, there's also an adjustment they have on the baler that's up on the upper rear roller, we call it on that, where you can shift the whole belt. Either if they're tracking to one side, it can be shifted to the right or left. On the right or left side, front or rear, just to make sure that all those belts track right and not right up on those guides again, to make sure that there is not a miswrap, because there's potential for wrap contamination is when there is a miswrap and either multiple wraps have to go on after that or there's a tear in the wrap.
Here on these bottom pictures we've got, this is your lower belt fingers on your R&B. And what we want to point out here is the spacing of these.
Another issue arises with the lower belt fingers. Take a close look at the spacing of the belt fingers. The two on the end, on both sides, have one finger with two spacer brackets. The spacer brackets have pushed the fingers out, creating a 3/4 inch gap. This should be flush. If the roll is not flush, one fix involves flipping the belt. You can do this by going into RMB service mode and flipping the belt 180 degrees. Finally, build some modules to see if the tracking improves. If this does not fix the issue, contact your dealer.
I don't know exactly what caused this right here. I guess my example, what I would say is there's something causing it. There's something out of adjustment, something bent, something's wrong to cause that, and eventually it's going to cause a damage. I mean, it's going to cause a misfire to do something.
I would say the first one to look at is the duck bill being too close and it's catching. The second would be potentially if it's an older machine, it could be the wrap fingers bent up.
You can see it from the outside.
Yeah, this is the outside layer that you would see on this bale. It's not cutting all the way through, but it's catching.
Moving on to the lower rod guides or the duck bill.
An issue here we've seen in the past where the pivot brackets are not riding out on the roller bearing.
Don't forget to check and tighten the bolts on the pivot brackets. These guides are responsible for feeding the wrap around the roller. If these bolts get loose, the lower rod guides can come out of position, causing major issues. If the rod guide is sitting on the bearing correctly, on both sides, the next thing you would want to check is the spacing of the fingers on the duck bills.
So right next to that duck bill bracket are those the black plastic fingers here. Those get bent up, and that spot is still, it's really tight, so if that wrap catches it, again, you're going to be causing some damage.
If left uncorrected, the fingers can bend. Bent fingers scrape and create holes in the wrap. Though small, once under the pressure of a module, these holes can lead to larger rips or tears in the wrap.
This is just one of the 9 that's on the machine, and you can see, like he said, these here had got bent up just like this. And as the wrap was trying to feed through here, you've only got an 1/8 of an inch of clearance for this wrap to get in here and then get into the bale chamber and start the rotation of the wrap around the module. So if there's anything that can obstruct it, this is what it's going to look like, and the wrap is going to basically back up and wrap that rubber roll. More chance of contamination in the wrap here as well. Really not a wrap issue, but a machine issue. Doesn't matter to any of us out here. It's a contamination issue.
If the plastic fingers are bent but not damaged, try flipping the finger piece over. If this doesn't work, contact the dealer for a replacement part.
The next big thing would be the lacing on these belts. These belts are, it's a one-piece belt with the ends held together by a lace. It's similar like on hay balers, things like that.
As with any belts on equipment, the RMB belts require thorough checks of the lacing, pins, and rivets. Make sure there's nothing protruding that can catch the wrap.
Sometimes we're not talking huge bits and pieces of plastic, but I mean, something like this is going to cause micro holes in that stuff, and who knows where that plastic goes.
Another common problem involves inadequate or no edge cover. If you see this problem, check behind the rollers. Make sure there's no debris buildup that would prohibit the wrap from completely folding over the edge of the module. This is one of the more notorious locations for cotton and other debris buildup, where the wrap comes in and makes a corner.
You know, we talked about the debris on the ramp. You probably won't see that much here again unless you're in really trashy cotton and higher moisture. And if you don't have any wind, you may see some buildup back there. If you do, I know it's changed. Chris, call somebody like Chris or something like that. We have changed our air on that ramp a little bit over the years. We had full ramp air prior to model year 12. We did some engineering changes. We took that ramp air a little bit off the center, and then we found that we were getting some buildup. So model year 12 to model year 15 machines on pickers didn't have full ramp air. We brought it back to full ramp air in 16. If you are finding that on a machine from model year 12 to model year 15, there is a kit that can be put back on those machines to get you full air across there again to help keep that ramp clean.
Another issue involves debris buildup on the ramp. Cotton or other debris can get caught and pulled in between the sheets. Even the smallest amount of debris can create breaks in the wrap. If you notice any issues, stop immediately and safely remove the debris.
Here's a little bit of a tricky one. We've got a partially wrapped module, or the wrap tailing out of the gate after eject. And what we've got here, we've got a picture, the metal end of wrap tag, wrap separation tag. In older machines it had a kind of an adhesive on it that would attach to that roller. That's since been changed, but it's not fail-proof. I think anytime that optical sensor right here below these rollers misses that tag, you're going to continue to wrap that module.
Partially wrapped modules are another issue.
We call it the toilet paper effect, so it's going to come down and a whole tail of wrap comes with it. And basically the issue there is, again, you're going to have this loose wrap that potentially can get hung up during handling and when it makes it to the gin. So, but that's a common problem. There's a few things they'll look at if that's happening.
If this happens, stop, get out, and make sure you have a new clean sheet of wrap on the wrap floor. Don't forget to take advantage of the John Deere Go Cotton app. The app is available through Apple Store and Google Play, and it offers a step-by-step guide to properly clean and maintain your machine. Don't let a good module go to waste. Wrap damage can occur if the module is not properly handled. Two of the most common mistakes involve turning the tractor before the fork holding the module has pulled away, or raising the handler before it is far enough away from the module. The location of your modules in the field matters. Don't forget that the transport speed of the tractor with a module on its handler should not exceed 16 kilometers per hour or 10 miles per hour. It is best to stage modules at the end of a field.
Try to carry that roll to the end. The closer you can get it to the end of the field, the less likely it is to go through, be carried a long distance over stalks and let those stalks beat the bottom out of it.
To prevent tearing the wrap's underside during module transit and staging, the gap between the underside of the module and the ground should never be less than 15 centimeters or 6 inches.
So when we go pick it up with the tractor or the wheel loader, we want to make sure that we get it up, not terribly high, but enough to clear those stalks so that we're not causing wrap damage down below.
A masted style handler is recommended when transporting modules down harvested rows. However, fully raising the 3-point hitch is recommended when transporting with non-masted handlers.
You want to be down low on that module. It's not like moving hay where you want to get right in the middle of it. You want to get down as low as you can, but so you can pick it up as high as you can. Now do it wrong. That's what you don't want to do.
When loading or unloading flatbed trailers, drive straight away from the trailer perpendicular to the bed to prevent handler contact with adjacent modules. Significant wrap tears must be repaired in the field before module pickup to prevent further wrap damage, storage issues, and ginning problems. Secure loose tail ends with reinforced cotton bale repair tape. Based on trials, TAMA recommends using Cantech 27705 or Cantech 27710 for repairs before being retrieved to prevent potential module wrap damage and ginning difficulties. Remember, communication between the producer and gin manager should always be a priority. If a module has an issue during harvest, inform the gin as soon as possible. This rule also applies for damaged modules. If the gin is made aware of damage on the front end, they can take the proper steps to clean up the module and prevent contamination.
There is some opportunity early in the season to talk to your guys that are staging the modules out in the field.
Modules should be staged on a high, flat, well-drained surface. Staging on flat driveways, turn rows, or disked surfaces is optimal. If possible, do not stage the modules on top of rows, beds, or field locations where module truck access is difficult. Module bottoms tend to take the shape of the surface they are placed on. Setting on beds or uneven surfaces causes module truck chains to dig into the ground to get under the bottom of the module. When choosing staging locations, make sure modules can be retrieved from the location following rain events. If module truck tires or tracks slip when retrieving the load, damage may occur to the underside of the module.
We're getting a lot of, misaligned modules more than anything else. It's very critical to get them in a straight line.
If they're not right, remind them, and just keep reminding them, and it'll do more good than anything else we can do.
Improper alignment increases the chance of module wrap tear and damage to the integrity of the module. Misaligned modules result in interruptions in module loading because the truck driver must stop and realign the truck before loading another round module. These loading interruptions may result in more wrap damage caused by modules scrubbing the hauler walls.
See that the torn one right there? It probably happened with the truck. He got it. See where he rubbed right there and then tore it. This right here is what winds up in the gin if you're not careful.
Utilize GPS capability when available to form straight lines for pickup.
Best practice that I've seen out there is if you've got a auto track system, put it on your module handling tractor, let the guy snap an AB line, and he can get those lined up perfect every time. That's something we've seen customers do across the U.S., and I can tell you it works good.
If you notice, this is touching at the bottom. As long as you can see daylight all the way, all these are a little bit too close, but if you look, they could be lined up a lot better. That's the way they all should be. But they need to be lined up, and you've got to keep reminding the operators.
Modules must be staged for module truck pickup with gaps between 3 to 4 inches between each module. Modules staged too close can cause wrap tearing as modules travel up and down inclined module truck beds due to contact with adjacent modules. Module ends that contact each other during long-term storage can increase chances of trapped moisture damage to seed cotton and may promote fungus and mold growth. Gaps between modules allow ventilation. On the other hand, modules staged too far apart can also cause 4 modules to be too long for legal module truck bed lengths. An easy way to achieve the correct gap is to bump against a previously staged module and then determine the number of tractor tire lugs that must pass forward from a line of sight before a proper gap is achieved.
As far as the module truck, we starting off with the picker. I'll be the first to tell you that the transporting of the module trucks and all that's probably as much damage as anything.
When it comes time to remove modules from the field, don't forget that chains matter. Module trucks with 12 bed chains must have the inside 8 chains fitted with preferred chain lugs to prevent damage inside the module wrap. Module trucks with 11 bed chains must have the inside 7 chains fitted with preferred chain lugs to prevent damage to the module wrap.
Here's some damage from inappropriate module truck chains. And I've got some pictures here of some chains that have been used. obviously you can see the kind of damage that those would cause.
As a final check, non-preferred chain is only allowed within 17 inches of module truck inside wall surfaces. If chain tail wheels are the sprocket style, paddle style with sharp points, or narrower than 2 inches, replace with wide, smooth paddle style tail wheels. These chains are only beneficial if the bed chain speed is synchronized with the truck's ground speed. Your module truck manufacturer can assist with adjustments to assure speeds are synchronized. Making sure these speeds match ensures that the plastic on the bottom of the module will not be pulled or pushed by the chains. Do not attempt to load round modules if improperly staged. Verify that the module group and individual modules have been identified per farmer and GIN instructions before loading. Do not add 2x4 boards or other spacers to the troughs in between the module truck bed chains. The spacers can cause wrap damage due to added friction between the underside of the module and the truck bed. Daily inspections for and removal of sharp edges on the module truck side panels, floor, or other areas where round modules directly contact the hauler are important. Rubber or steel cleat tracks are highly recommended when handling round modules in wet or sandy conditions. Remember, communication between the producer and GIN manager should always be a priority. If a module has an issue during harvest, inform the GIN as soon as possible. This rule also applies for damaged modules. If the GIN is made aware of damage on the front end, they can take the proper steps to clean up the module and prevent contamination. Unlike the traditional square modules, which can be transported only by module trucks, TAMA RMW maintains the module's round shape with minimum expansion, allowing transport to the GIN with various means, such as a flatbed truck. Keep in mind GIN recommendations along with state and federal laws or regulations governing seed cotton hauling and ginning. When loading or unloading flatbed trailers, drive straight away from the trailer perpendicular to the bed axis to prevent hauler contact with adjacent modules. Don't forget to properly secure modules to the flatbed trailer before transporting to the GIN. Remember, communication between the producer and GIN manager should always be a priority. If a module has an issue during harvest, inform the GIN as soon as possible. This rule also applies for damaged modules. If the GIN is made aware of damage on the front end, they can take the proper steps to clean up the module and prevent contamination. Once the modules are transported to the GIN, they are stored at the GIN storage area in the same way as conventional modules. Modules should be staged on a high, flat, well-drained surface. Module ends that contact each other during long-term storage can increase chances of trapped moisture damage to seed cotton and may promote fungus and mold growth. Gaps between modules allow ventilation. Operators using handling and ginning equipment should always take care to avoid puncturing or tearing module wrap. Punctures or tears in the wrap can create loose pieces of wrap that become contaminants.
But when we get one even like this, it's not, we were able to haul it. If you had to try to get that cotton in the gin without getting any plastic on it, how would you do it? I mean, it's just not easy. We do have a suck pipe. Some gins don't even have a suck pipe.
All we can do is slice the wrap and peel it back and suck it with this telescope here. And then we've got somebody here watching for plastic to try not to suck it up, but it happens. I'd say if we get a good module here with it's not torn or anything, there's virtually zero contamination ever. It's right here is where we have most of our problems. Or we get one that's partially torn up that we can still run on here.
Modules should always be inspected before ginning. Any modules that are damaged must be handled and ginned with special care to prevent contamination. Wrapped module handling equipment with chains must be fitted with puncture and slit-resistant lugs. Failure to modify chains may result in severely damaged or torn wrap. Prevent wrap punctures and tears by ensuring that wrapped modules do not pass directly over rock or debris-removing rollers. Identify possible wrap pinch areas and inspect these areas regularly during ginning process. Remember, communication between the producer and gin manager should always be a priority. If a module has an issue during harvest, inform the gin as soon as possible. This rule also applies for damaged modules. If the gin is made aware of damage on the front end, they can take the proper steps to clean up the module and prevent contamination.
As long as that module gets to your gin lot and is intact, and you pick it up and you get it to the feeder floor and you cut it in the right position, you're going to eliminate 99% of cotton contamination.
It is important to train gin crews on safe techniques for removing and inspecting module covers and wraps prior to the start of the ginning season. There are several systems now in place to unwrap round modules at the gin. While some of these systems can read the radio frequency identification device, or RFID, located in the TAMA wrap, there are some systems that do not. Gin personnel always need to be vigilant and on the lookout for loose plastic. Knowing where to cut and cutting in the correct area will drastically reduce the risk for contamination. But proper removal technique does not eliminate the need for all employees to be vigilant looking for loose plastic and other potential contaminants.
Well, we're always cutting 180 degrees, is that right, Keith? As close to 180 degrees as we can, opposite that tag. If we cut right there, we're cutting through everything, and the tail and all the other parts of that wrap stays intact. If you cut it in the wrong place, and you got that much of that tail, then that little sliver of plastic is nothing's holding it. So it can just go in there.
If the system does not automatically position the module, cut the wrap on the upper half of the module. This allows for easier inspection and removal of wrap pieces that may have been created in the cutting process. Cutting on the bottom half of the module increases the possibility of loose portions of wrap getting covered up with cotton and not being removed before ginning. Always remember to safeguard workers by following normal lockout-tagout procedures when removing potential contaminants from machinery. Shut down a piece of equipment or the entire gin if needed until the job is complete.
We have come up with hopefully an idea and trying to be as proactive as we can to help you at the gin to eliminate as much contamination as possible with round module wrap.
During the 2018 season, TAMA will implement a new TAMA cut indicator to the RMW to assist in finding the safe cutting zone, minimizing the risk of cotton contamination.
And what we're showing is pairs of scissors that go all the way across the module, the whole 9 foot. And then it's going to say cut. It says cut across the top. It says cut below this line anywhere from the line down to 3 foot. And if you cut there, you're going to get all the wrap. You're not going to have that one piece that's about this wide and 9 foot long that can get into the feeder floor.
The safe cutting zone is 1 meter, or about 3 feet, from the TAMA cut indicator.
This is our Z-lock. That's what makes the wrap separate at this point, attach the tail to the finished product, and then doesn't leave any adhesive whatsoever on the module next portion going in to feed the module. So this is the leading edge of the next portion. And what you get then is a nice finished tail with the metallic label here, and then you can kind of see, if I turn this a little bit, you can see the cut line. Okay, and so what we're saying is from this cut line, which is here, 3 feet down, in between here and the 3 feet, you know, the estimated 3 feet, you cut it, whether it's with an automatic rotating machine or cutting a lot of them by hand. If you cut it right here, that wrap is going to unfold and it's all going to come off in one piece, just one cut. That's right, one cut.
If you cut that right now, it'll come all in one piece?
Yeah, it will. I tape it right there, but it comes off here, and you can even, I'll pass this around.
In smaller modules, such as one that is ejected at the end of the day or when finishing a field, the safe cutting zone may move, so extra care should be taken when opening those modules to make sure small pieces of wrap do not enter into the cotton. The safe cutting zone is 180 degrees from the white metallic label with the barcode and serial number, located about 15.5 inches above the RMW tail.
We get plastic in the gin, we don't know when it's coming out in the bale.
You know, we stop and there'll be plastic wrapped around the disperser cylinders. Don't know how long it's been in there and how many, you know, it could contaminate a lot of bales.
Starting at the module feeder, check the entire ginning system at regular intervals for module wrap or other debris. Discard any loose material to prevent wrap and feeder head and lint contamination during the ginning process. All non-wrap foreign material should be placed in secure containers away from module feeders and gin equipment. A compactor is recommended near the unwrapping location to package all plastic from the round module ginning process. Deposit all plastic fragments from the gin yard and feeder floor entrance in the compactor to reduce the chance of plastic contamination. Modules must be placed close together without gaps on the feeder floor to ensure constant feeding into the gin. If modules are placed with their axis oriented parallel to the feeder floor travel direction, feeder sidewalls, approximately 5 feet high, may be needed to contain unwrapped modules. Modules placed onto a roller-style feeder floor with the axis oriented parallel to floor travel direction may need increased friction between the rollers and the unwrapped modules. Welding iron rods to every other roller to maintain clearance or applying slip-resistant paint may be required. These modules should also have suitable feed rate control or an accumulator to compensate for the peaks and valleys of the modules. For moving head feeders, modules should be placed on the concrete slab with the module axis oriented perpendicular to the travel direction to control seed cotton spillage. Always remember to safeguard workers when removing potential contaminants from machinery. Shut down a piece of equipment or the entire gin if needed until the job is complete.
There must be 10 different ways or more for people to unwrap. When we went to the round picker, the round rollers, I wanted to be sure that we had the best method of unrolling it so we could not error, you know, and not have contamination. And so that's what this is all about.
In working to eliminate contamination on the farm or gin, remember that safety should always be the highest priority. Use this video as a guide and make sure to review the operator's manuals for your equipment. Make sure all employees have read and understand the safe operating practices before they operate or work alongside any equipment in the operation. In order to avoid potential injuries or death on the farm and in the gin, safety guidelines must always be enforced. You can do your part to prevent contamination without risking your safety or the safety of others.